King of the Fleet Street, dated Thursday, March 24th, 2011. We'll have the invocation by Mr. Sias, followed by the pledge. Please stand. Mr. Sias.
Mr. President, leading us in the invocation tonight will be Monsignor Ronald Grote, pastor of the Sacred Heart of Jesus Catholic Church.
Let us bow our head. Lord God, we know that your presence reaches to the ends of the earth. Confirm our common faith and our shared purpose, and let your wisdom and guidance be with our police jury in all of their deliberations this evening. Let them serve our local government and the services that are rendered through their hands. Allow, Lord, them to work for the common good of all. We ask this in the name of Jesus, our Lord.
Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Yes, sir. Mr. Andrepont?
Here.
Mr. Collins?
Here.
Mr. Farnham? Here. Mrs. Griffin? Present. Mr. Guidry?
Here.
Mr. Hassan?
Here.
Mr. Landry?
Here.
Dr. Mackey?
Present.
Mr. McMillan?
Here.
Mr. Scott?
Here.
Mr. Spell?
Here.
Mr. Stelly?
Here.
Mr. Sias?
Present.
Mrs. Trimmie? Here. And President Brown.
Here.
Everyone's present.
Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
At this time, if anybody would like to speak on any agenda item tonight, there's some blue slips in the back of the room. Just fill it out and bring it up to Jessica here, and she'll get it to us. Also, if you have a cell phone, just ask that you silence them for us tonight. And thank you for being here. With that said, we'll go to item 5, presentation of a certificate by Ms. Joy Fregola, Outreach Director for the Southern Eye Bank. Ms. Fregola.
I'd like to say thank you for giving us this opportunity to meet with you all and introduce our Executive Director. He came in from New Orleans for this presentation, Mr. Philip Castillo.
Hi, thank you for having us. I do live in New Orleans, but I grew up in Lake Charles. It's quite the pleasure to be here to recognize the parish tonight. We had Southern Eye Bank. Our mission is to restore and to preserve sight, and we do that by recovering ocular tissue from the recently deceased. We get consent from their family members and next of kin to be able to do that, and we bring that tissue to our laboratory. We evaluate it and distribute it for the transplants. We can't do that without the citizens being willing to donate, and we're very proud to say that Calcasieu Parish had 74 families last year who gave the gift of sight. We had 105 transplants from those tissues. Unfortunately, we can't use everything. Some of them don't meet specifications to be used. But 105 is a tremendous amount of people that were whose vision was saved through those transplants, and we're very proud of that. So if I could have Mr. Brown come up. So Southern Eye Bank is pleased to present the Legacy of Vision Tribute 2010 to the citizens of Calcasieu Parish in recognition of these fine citizens who were donors.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. If we could also take a moment, we'd like to recognize Calcasieu Parish Coroner's Office as well. They are a true advocate for us. They work with us through all hours of day and night, and we couldn't do our job without their assistance. We need them to be able to facilitate the gift, because a lot of times we need part of what we need is a cause of death on people, and sometimes people die, we don't know exactly what it is, and working through the coroner's office we get that information. So with their help we were able to make these donors give the gift of sight.
98.
And they were helpful with 98 families.
They helped facilitate 98 families. Some deaths that occurred in Calcasieu Parish, but they were residents of other parishes.
So we could have Dr. Welke. This is our Vision Champion 2010. We'll present that to the Calcasieu Parish Coroner's Office. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
And one last presentation. We love the coroner's office. One last presentation. Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency is also here with an award for the parish and for the coroner's office. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Pam Cart.
We'd like to thank the iBank for including us and for recognizing the parish. What we do is organs and tissue. And just the success celebrated in Louisiana this year, Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency proudly finished 2010 with 161 organ donors, and 523 of those organs were transplanted and saved lives. 2009 year, we had 488 organs transplanted. So to put it in perspective, there was 35 more organs transplanted last year, and almost 100 more than in 2008. And in 2006, 2008, we did 28 lungs in Louisiana, but in 2009, 44, but in 2010, 74 lung transplants here in Louisiana. Wow. So while there's a few reasons for the increase, the largest reason is attributed to the dedication of LOPA staff, but the coroners with their persistence and willingness from both agencies making changes to old practices. It is a accumulation of all agencies and their departments working together toward one common goal, to save as many lives as possible. And we'd like to present to the parish of Calcasieu, if President Guy would come back. Just here in Calcasieu Parish, we had 13 organ donors, saving 55 lives here, and 36 tissue donors, meeting the needs of 1,800 people. So this is Calcasieu Parish. Jared Daigle, who represents LOPA and Calcasieu Parish. And of course, we couldn't do it without the coroners. On all coroner deaths are unnatural deaths. And let me tell you, I love to steal Zeb Johnson's saying, life trumps death every time. And they will always, they call in the deaths if they know it's on the license. They make sure that those wishes are honored. And so they were the reason for these 55 lives and these 1,800 lives. So if Zeb, Charlie, and Dr. Welke would come up.
You want to ask Mr. Steele?
Because Dr. Welke can't do it without these two. So thank y'all for giving life and supporting your
Mr. Steele, would you mind, Mr. Steele, would you mind coming up to the mic? We have a juror that has a question for you. Castillo, excuse me. No wonder you didn't come right up. Go ahead, Mr. Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. President. My question is, how does one become an organ donor? I think she touched on it with the driver's license. That's the most efficient way to do that?
You can register through Donate Life, Louisiana, LA.org is a website you can do it at, or you can go when you renew your license at the DMV. You can register it there as well.
That includes the eyes and everything. So.
It includes organized and
Tissues.
tissue.
Okay.
Yes, it's all
Thank you.
inclusive. Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Let you know, in Louisiana, there's 1,800 people waiting on an organ, and every 3 days, someone in Louisiana dies waiting. Sorry.
Say that,
I
say that for us
interrupt.
again.
In Louisiana, there's over 1,800 people waiting for organs alone, and every 3 days, one person will die in Louisiana waiting. So
Okay. We thank
make
y'all.
that decision and talk to your family.
Yes. Thank you for being here. Okay, we're going to go to item number 6, presentation by Mr. John Holston Sr. regarding the upcoming display of the historical Tuskegee Airmen aircraft. Mr. Holston.
Administration and Administrator Beam and Honorable Police Chairman, I appreciate you letting me come down and spend a few minutes with you, okay? We have on our agenda of the Commemorative Air Force, we're bringing in a P-51 Mustang from Minnesota. The Tuskegee Airmen are Afro-American fighter pilots that were trained in Tuskegee, Alabama, and they were very good at their job. They escorted the B-29s over Europe, never lost a plane. They, at one point, there was 35 Tuskegee against 100 Messerschmitt, and they fought the German Messerschmitt off of the aircraft, and they were very successful to end in World War II. We also have plans to bring in some more World War II aircraft, one of those being a B-25. The 18th of April of this year will be the anniversary of the Colonel Doolittle bombing Japan, and there was 80 airmen that took off of the Hornet. There was 80 men that went toward Japan and didn't do a lot of damage, but really upset the Japs, and they turned towards China. There was 71 of the 80 survived the trip, and there's 5 original Tuskegee, not Tuskegee, but there's 5 original Doolittle Raiders still living. We've invited these guys down. They up in the years, but they're still living. We've invited some of the Tuskegee Flowers down, and they're up in the age too, and you'd just be surprised. There was a little more than 1,000 Tuskegee Airmen trained. There was 531 went to Europe and saw combat, and there's about 350 still living, and they're over Houston and Doretta and different places like that. But these men were outstanding flyers. I know the background. I know a lot about what they've done, and it would take a good while for me to go into it with you, you know. But this will be one of the things that will be coming in, and the next thing that, along with the program, which is what the Tuskegee plane is all about, we go into high schools and speak to juniors and seniors or any other classes that we can get. The Calcasieu School Board has authorized us to go into the parish schools with veterans, World War veterans, and in the 3 wars, and talk about freedom and that you can do what you want to do, and you don't depend on the government to take care of you. These are some of the things that we talk about, because a lot of the students today in school are not brought up like you were brought up. They don't know where Anzio Beach is. They never heard of Omaha Beach or Iwo Jima or anything like that. So we plan to tell these kids about some of the things that this country went through for us to enjoy our freedom that we have today. And in Calcasieu Parish, it surprised me a lot. We're going into 5 parishes. What really surprised me is the Calcasieu Parish, we have over 8,500 children, just seniors and juniors, 8,500. Jeff Davis Parish has around 1,500. The other parishes has 800, a little more than 800, a little less than 800, a little more than 800. So Calcasieu Parish, we have the lion's share of young people. And these young people thinking must be turned around. They must be turned around. They have to know what the country stands for, and they have to know what freedom is so that you don't lose the freedom. And freedom is given to every generation to defend it. It's not like a blood transfusion that you get. You have to educate every generation to carry the torch like a lot of young people is doing today. I appreciate your time. If you have any questions, the cost of seeing the aircraft is absolutely free. There's no charge on anything. If any of you people want to take a ride in that P-51, let me know. They got a guy by the name of Brad Lang will be flying it, and he's one of the ace pilots. He was in the Acrobat Air Force precision team that flies. Right now he flies with Delta Airlines, and he lives in Los Angeles. And his daddy was a Tuskegee flyer, real nice guy. So he can carry you for a ride, you know. There was 15,000 P-51s made in World War II. They were made in Dallas, Texas, and Inglewood, California. Today, there's less than 500 in existence, less than 200 in the world that's actually flying. And I have a packet there I left for you. I'd like for you to look at the video, you know, just turn it on and look at it and educate yourself a little bit on the aircraft that's coming in, okay? Y'all have any questions on anything?
Mr. Holston, thank you for the presentation, and yes, sir, we do. Mr. Guidry?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Holston, I first of all just want to thank you for taking the time to come here tonight and just give us a brief overview of basically what a lot of these young men did as Tuskegee Airmen. And a lot of us really, when we look in our history books, we really don't see a lot of what was actually said and actually done about these young men. But I just want to applaud you for taking the time and basically getting this to our young people to educate them a little bit more on the history of what went on with those guys. So, again, if there's anything that we can do as a governing body to help you with this endeavor, please feel free to contact us. We applaud you for coming here tonight.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All the information is on the paperwork I left you, and it's locked there. But you can go through it. It shows you exactly how much we've collected. It shows you exactly who's taking care of the money. We have an accounting firm that takes care of money. They write the checks on invoices. It's locked in. It's absolutely safe. And we have a donation certificates in there of the Commemorative Air Force. It's all in that packet.
Okay. Mr. Holston, I believe we have one other. Mr. McMillan?
Thank you, Mr. Holston. Me and Mr. Scott would like to sign up to fly with P-51. I can tell you I'd be honored to do that. And I think he's got your home phone number, so we'll be getting in touch with you. I'd definitely like to go up in a P-51.
That's only because it's free.
All right. Okay.
I'll pay for it.
Wait, hang on, Mr. Holston. Go ahead,
My
Mr. Simon.
question is, Mr. Holston, before, how long is the ride? You said they're going to take a ride on their plane. How far are they taking them?
You know it.
I didn't hear that.
How long would the ride be?
How
long is the ride?
It's 30 minutes.
30 minutes?
30 minutes. It's have any of y'all ever seen a P-51 Mustang?
Yes, sir.
Y'all all seen them?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's a fine aircraft. It was a signature aircraft for the Tuskegee. They flew other planes, P-47, but they could really handle that P-51. They could knock them Germans out of the sky with it, you know. And one of the Tuskegee was an ace pilot. He died last year, but he shot down 5 Messerschmitt in one day. Also, they at the end of the war, the German turned loose their jet airplane, jet engine mounted in the Messerschmitt, and that was a very fast-moving jet. We'd never seen anything like that before, and these guys were shooting them down. I'm telling you, they wasn't even safe with them jets, you know.
Mr. Holston, go ahead, Mr. Anspont.
Since Mr. McMillan and Mr. Scott have volunteered, is there an ejection seat on that plane?
I didn't hear that. Okay, all right. I'll let y'all go, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Holston.
Thank y'all for letting me come in, okay?
Appreciate
so
that.
much. Appreciate it.
I was thinking the
A little history lesson, too. Okay, we'll move to item 7, presentation by administrative staff of a proposal redistricting plan for police jury single-member districts. Mr. Breen.
Thank you, Mr. Brame. Back on February 16th, we presented the results of the 2010 census for Calcasieu Parish to you, which showed the population and demographic information for the existing police jury districts. And that was the kickoff, formal kickoff of what we call the redistricting process. And as Mr. Cade Cole pointed out that evening, that requires that you declare the districts to be what they call malapportioned, which simply means they don't fall within the accepted deviations from the federal law that you have to live within. So you have to redistrict. And it's a very common thing. As a matter of fact, most places have to do that. In tandem with Mr. Cole, and after compiling a lot of information from all of you, we, and there's several staff, when I say we, I want to commend several staff, at least 10, who worked on this along with me and Cade, and have a lot of different roles and will continue to. We have developed a proposed redistricting plan for Calcasieu Parish for the 15 single-member districts. Now, this proposed plan addresses the criteria and the requirements set forth under state law and under the applicable federal regulations, which are administered by the Department of Justice. Now, as a reminder, this was covered already, but it's been a few weeks. The population for Calcasieu as of the 2010 census is 192,768. So if you divide that number by 15, you get an ideal size of 12,851 per police jury district. And again, you have a plus or minus 5% deviation that is allowed when preparing a redistricting plan on either side of that ideal. Our proposed plan as presented herein includes several highlights. I'll just name a few, but they're very important. First is it protects the 4 what are referred to as majority-minority districts, and the African-American percentages range in those districts from 60.3% to 69.6%, which is very good. That is the range that you want to shoot for with any majority-minority districts, which we have 4. It maintains the core area of the police jury districts, meaning no district incumbents will run against each other. And it includes only 3 newly split precincts. That is something the state looks at. You can split precincts for this process, but you have to do it only on a required basis. You can't just do it to shape districts in the manner you wish. And it actually reduces the number of districts that cross the Calcasieu from 2 to 1. Calcasieu is a pretty big body of water, and in any parish or county, you want to see if you have a river like that to try to keep as much as possible on one side. There are several documents that are included with a packet Jessica's going to hand out to each of you, and I'll just quickly go through what those are, and then I will turn it over to Cade, who will review the actual proposed redistricting plan. And let me just state, while Jessica's handing those out, I want to thank all the staff, but give Cade a special recognition. He has worked very hard on this process with us, gone through literally dozens of scenarios to come up with a plan that we've reviewed. And one of the benefits of modern technology is that you can look at a lot of different options and see what works and what doesn't fairly quickly. So he's been very thorough, and you'll see that, I believe, in his explanation. Your packet has a parish-wide map illustrating the proposed district boundaries. We have a metro area map, which is the same map basically zoomed in to the more populated areas, Lake Charles, Sulphur, Moss Bluff, Westlake, primarily. So you can see the streets better. There is a condensed police jury district population table, which includes the deviation percentage and the African American percentage for each district. And then there is a more detailed table which has that same information, but it actually shows you the precinct numbers and populations that are within each district as proposed. And lastly, you have a list of the current polling places which are there for your cross-referencing. If a lot of you will need to refer to that to see what precinct and where people vote. So you have that as well. That is not new. That has been in existence for a while. I want to go ahead and just for a second look ahead beyond tonight. Where do we go from here? Tonight is to present the plan to you and officially put it out there beginning tomorrow and through April 7th for a public comment period. There is, as a meeting notice, as you saw earlier in the week, went out for a public hearing next Tuesday in this room at 5:30 for the sole purpose of getting any public comment on this plan. So we will reconvene here, open it as a special meeting of the jury, but just have that one agenda item. And we will record whatever is presented that evening. Cade will likely go through something similar as tonight, and we simply hear input from the public. You won't have to deliberate anything on that meeting. And we do encourage public comment between now, not just at that meeting, but any time between now and April 7th. We are going to use several avenues to communicate this plan to make sure people are aware of it, including the official journal, which is the Lake Charles American Press, news releases, media advisories. Our website will be an excellent place to study this plan. The government channel and other sources as needed. With the tight deadlines in place this year for redistricting, we strongly recommend that you take action on a plan on April 7th at your meeting then. That will allow us time to prepare what is a very voluminous set of documents and records and information to go to state agencies and the Department of Justice. With that, at this time, I'll ask Cade to come up. He will use 2 maps primarily to give some detail on the plan and how it was developed, and then take any questions from jurors, and then that'll wrap up our part for tonight.
Okay, just state your name.
Cade Cole. Mr. President, members of the jury, I'm happy to present our consensus proposed redistricting plan, the result of great effort and countless hours by your administrative staff, the GIS staff, and of course we also received assistance on the data from the Registrar of Voters. Our plan respects distinct communities of interest, keeping them intact where possible, and provides for districts of compact and logically adjacent territory. The shapes on the map may look interesting, but that's precisely because we had to follow the existing precinct boundaries. And of course, our citizens do not live in neatly distributed squares. We don't control where the people live or the demographics of folks on the ground. We simply draw a plan that complies with the applicable state and federal law based on the facts as they exist. Since single-member district elections began in 1971, I've looked at the police redistricting plans through the years. And although I recognize that the shifts we're going to discuss tonight are important to the people affected, I can say with confidence, and I'm very proud, that this plan has the least change of any redistricting plan that I think has ever been before the police jury. The ability to keep district lines as close to where they started as possible is important because it only creates public confusion if we were to start from scratch and erase them and begin anew. It's important to remember that the plan is driven by the law and the numbers. We'll start by going over the plan in West Calcasieu. I'm happy to say that in West Calcasieu, District 11, which is the DeQuincy-Starks area, District 12, which is the Carlis-Vinton area, and District 15, which is East Sulphur, including Maplewood, do not change at all. These districts grew in line with the parish's population, allowing us to keep these 3 boundaries exactly as they are today. District 13, centered in Old Sulphur, gained a small precinct, 460 East. This precinct exists under the current plan and is merely being moved from District 14 to District 13. This area is bounded between Highway 27 and North Claiborne all the way up to the Houston River. District 14, which is the Westlake-based district, gains the area of North Westlake currently represented by Lake Charles juror. We believe this is positive because it reduces the number of districts that cross the river and makes Westlake whole. I think it serves to protect our traditional communities of interest and kind of preserve those as intact. Moving to East Calcasieu, you can see that District 1 was required to shrink because it was the most overly deviated. I should note that we looked seriously at Mr. Spell's request at the possibility of a second jury seat based primarily in Ward 1, but the numbers do not support this at the present time, perhaps in 10 years. Although it maintains a presence east of Highway 171 all the way to Clyde Delaney Road, we shifted the Gillis-Topsy area out of their current districts and contracted District 2 to reduce its footprint in Ward 1. The Gillis area is moved to District 10, giving us a rural East Calcasieu district that includes the Bell City Hayes area, the Iowa LaBlue Settlement area, and then the Gillis area. District 1 will lose the area north of Gillis Cutoff, while District 2 loses the area north of Clyde Delaney. The consensus was that the Gillis area is an identifiable community, distinct and apart from Moss Bluff, that has a rural ethos that fits well with the rural East Calcasieu district that is District 10. The addition of this area to District 10 requires that District 10 contract out of Ward 3. So District 10 will no longer go into Ward 3, which was in any event becoming increasingly suburbanized. So the shifts in the area outside of Ward 3 are not remarkably dramatic and are mostly dictated by some population shifts and growth in the Ward 1 area, which required some additional juror representation to shift up into that area. And so we'll move now to a metro map that kind of focuses on Ward 3. I'm going to move it out so I might see a little better. This metro view gives us a zoomed-in version and allows us to kind of look at what's happening mostly in Lake Charles. Any plan is required by federal law to preserve 4 effective majority-minority districts. And because of the shift in African-American population from the area north of I-10 into central Lake Charles, broadly defined as the area between I-10 and 210, we have to move the districts that represent African-American voters into these new areas of African-American growth. This population realignment causes shifts in Districts 2, 3, 4, and 5. District 9, in the southeastern area of the city of Lake Charles, does not change at all, primarily because it was both a growth area and a growth area for African-American voters. As mentioned before, District 2 contracts out of Ward 1, keeping one precinct in Ward 1, but shrinking its footprint in Ward 1. District 2 then, to give it an appropriate minority population, gains area that's currently represented by District 3, largely the area west of Enterprise Boulevard and north of Division Street. As the smallest district following the 2010 census, District 3 was required to grow considerably. District 3 had to grow significantly into central Lake Charles to maintain the same demographic makeup. It gained certain area below 12th Street, current boundary was 12th Street, and west of 3rd Avenue. It continued into central Lake Charles by gaining the area from there roughly down to the Prien Lake Mall, stretching generally to include the territory east of Lake Street, north of Prien Lake Road, west of Kirkman, and below 18th Street. It also gained some territory between 12th and 18th Street, west of 3rd Avenue, all the way to Ryan Street. District 3 has to pick up this territory because this is where the voters are. District 4 gained area between I-210 and 18th Street, between 5th Avenue and Kirkman. District 5, represented by Dr. Mackey, maintains its core in the Shell Beach Drive, Old Lake Charles Garden District area, but has to grow significantly into South Lake Charles, taking the Holly Hill area, as well as precincts from District 6 above McNeese Street. District 6 loses these northernmost precincts above McNeese Street, but gains the area around the airport. District 7 shifts southeasternly to gain the area between Tom Hebert Road and Ward Line Road.
I think you got carried away on mine. I think you got me numbered down there in Cameron. Either that or the number fell off the board. I don't know which.
Yes, Mr. Landry, we can go back to the whole parish view. This is a zoom in that zoomed in a little too far. So.
Red Lake Road at the north and the Cameron line on the south. That's quite a stretch.
Right. It had the Cameron line as its border anyway. It just moves the eastern border from Tom Hebert Road to Ward Line Road. District 8 was so large that it did not need to gain any territory. It simply gave up to District 5 the precinct east of Isles and north of Sale Road. There are only 3 splits in the plan, all required to provide paths for districts into new territory. Precinct 303 is split at Enterprise Boulevard, a very identifiable street. Precinct 303 East remains with District 3, while Precinct 303 West will shift to District 2. Precinct 320 is also split at 3rd Avenue, with 320 East maintaining with District 4, while 320 West is going to go to District 3. Precinct 319 is split at 18th Street, with the northern portion joining District 3 and the southern portion joining District 4. And the reason for that split is you went from having these horizontally aligned precincts to having these vertically aligned precincts, and they provided a block that kind of prohibited shifting west, so we needed to split that one to kind of give a path west. In conclusion, the plan can be summarized as follows. It does not change 4 districts, including most in West Calcasieu. It provides for 1 rural East Calcasieu district combining wards 2 and 8 with the Gillis area. It maintains the growing Moss Bluff and southwest Lake Charles regions with single drawers who didn't have to grow in territory. And it recognizes the demographic shifts in central Lake Charles by combining this growing African American area with existing majority-minority districts. Finally, it shifts the districts represented by Dr. Mackey, Mr. Scott, and Mr. Landry counterclockwise, driving them southeasternly to pick up the territory vacated by Mr. Stelly's district. This was a very difficult process, and any moves require adjustment of other parts of the plan. As Brian said, we went through a variety of scenarios to try to prevent some of these shifts. But what we've ended up with is what is absolutely necessary to make the numbers work. We can look at other options, but we feel confident, having looked at many of them, that this is what works and works best for the police jury districts. Of course, though, we welcome public comment and ideas. The maps are available on the police jury website, I understand, as we speak. And furthermore, will be displayed in the lobby here in the parish government building and with the Register of Voters office. There's a lot of traffic that goes through there. The public comment period, which will allow written comment, will last from here all the way till April 7th, where there will also be a public hearing. But there is a special public hearing scheduled for next Tuesday night, where this will be the only thing discussed. The public can bring their comments to that hearing. Brian may have some additional comment about how the public can submit this or about the remainder of the process, but that ends my presentation, and I'm happy to take any draw questions if Brian has anything to add.
Kate handled it well. I have nothing further to add.
Okay, thank you. Does any jurors have any questions for Kate?
Let me switch, Mr. Brame, back to
Go ahead.
the overall map, just so Mr. Landry can see that he doesn't go into Cameron's hair.
I thought I was gonna get the courthouse in Cameron.
There's a sub.
So this is, again, the parish-wide map where you can see there are largely 3 South Lake Charles drawers, 4 Central and North Lake Charles drawers that are African-American districts, 1 district, District 5, which kind of splits evenly between South Lake Charles and Central Lake Charles, a rural East Calcasieu district going from Gillis to Bell City Hayes, and then the districts on the west side largely stay exactly the same, with the exception of making Westlake whole. So that's where we're
Mr. McMillan, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cole, on what you've done. I know the people of Westlake are going to be thrilled to kind of all be encompassed in one district. Although Ms. Griffin did a tremendous job serving them, I hope I can fill her shoes in Westlake and do a good job as she has. But to have that Westlake district not crossed over by the river, I think is something that a lot of people have requested, and I think you bringing that into this this redistricting proposal is very important. Thank you, Mr. Cole.
Dr. Mackey?
I just make one comment. He can't get in her shoes.
No, I can't, but I might.
He can't get his feet in her shoes, period. Thank you.
Ms. Griffin?
Thank you, Mr. President. In reference to Mr. McMillan, I served Westlake well, and I don't have a problem with giving it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. Okay, with any other discussion, none. Thank you, Kay. Thank you, Brian, for the presentation. We appreciate it. Okay, we'll go to item 8, take appropriate action on applications for liquor and beer permits. Mr. Vickers?
Mr. President, we have 2 applications and 1 special
Move.
permit. We recommend they be approved.
I have a motion by Mr. Guidry and a second by Mr. Collins. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 9, consideration or approval of all payment of all current invoices. Motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Ms. Griffin. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 10, consideration of approving the minutes of the regular meeting of the police jury dated February 16, 2011. I have a motion by Mr. Fornham and a second by Mr. Sias. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 11, consideration of approving the Solid Waste and Litter Abatement Committee report dated March 17, 2011. Ms. Trimmy.
Thank you. I won't be long, but I just want to give you a little a bullet by bullet. We met on the 17th. We had our Solid Waste Committee meeting, and it was very important. This is setting up the guidelines for the RFP, the request for proposal. The staff gave us the scope of work, being a single contractor, representing the unincorporated areas of 2 through 8 in that, but also that Ward 1 inclusion in the base rate proposal with the provisions of the CPI fuel and surcharge adjustments that we will have. There will be a high level of service for the containers per household, and community service is going to be looked at. The contract we're looking at is a 5-year with a maximum of a 5-year renewal, with the annual CPI rate adjustment, the monthly fuel adjustment, and the liquidated damages to the person that gets the contract for early starts, late finishes, and they would be fines under those guidelines. There was some talk on the containers per household. As of right now, 50% of the Calcasieu Parish households have 2, and there was some discussion on that. We want to maintain what we have, but we want to do better than what we have, and so they're looking at for sure 2 that if be requested, and it would be at the same charge. They're talking about the possibility if they wanted 3, then that 1 after 2 would be at the same rate that the parish pays for the service. The recommendation on the On the evaluation is a background of experience, and they're going by a point system, which would be 25 points, ability to perform 25 points, which are making sure of their credit and good standing and available capital. Also, 15 points for equipment. They're hoping to have good equipment that is new or almost new, where we don't have breakdowns. Looking at the type and the age, the maintenance and the safety, the way that they maintain and drive their vehicles, all that's going to be looked at. And the community service, trash bashes, educational campaigns, being very involved in community service. And then, of course, the cost of service, and it would be based on a rate per household, and they will give us more detail on that. The evaluation committee is, as of right now, 6. There was, Ms. Griffin said that she thought that 7 would be better since it would be an odd number instead of an even number. We have a really good group that are on that, and they're the ones that will be grading their, when they get the request for proposals, they will be grading them by the point system. And they will be doing that on an individual basis, and then they'll come together after they do that individually. The other thing that I was going to mention is that there are 33,000 approximate households in Calcasieu Parish, and excluding Ward 1, there's over 25,000 between 2 through 8. What we will be doing is coming back on March the 31st, and the Solid Waste Committee will take appropriate action at that time regarding the recommendations for the RFP, the manual, and the calendar. As of right now, they were looking at April 7th to take appropriate action on the Solid Waste Committee recommendations. So that's a pretty heavy load, but high priority. I appreciate the time to make my report, and I request that the report be accepted.
Move to receive report.
Okay, have a motion and a second to receive report. Any discussion? Mr. Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Trimmy touched on it, and I just wanted to bring it up for discussion. The RFP, as it stands now, Brian, please correct me if I'm wrong, provides that the provider give 1 can to each household. If the household wanted to purchase additional ones, they can, but there would be an additional charge to the homeowner if they have more than 2 cans, whether they purchase it from the provider or if they put their own cans out. Is that correct?
Yes, that was our recommendation from last meeting.
Okay. What I'd like to just bring up for discussion, I don't feel this is fair to the taxpayers. We asked them to pass a tax to continue the service that they're getting now. This service is paid for with a sales tax, not with individual billing like they do in some municipalities. For example, in Sulphur, they individually bill the homes. This is paid for by a sales tax. Those, and it was estimated that over somewhere around 10%, which is 2,500 households, have more than 3 cans regularly out at the road. So we're talking about 2,500 households that would have to pay an additional bill directly to the waste hauler. And I just don't, that's not what we promised the people of this parish when we asked them to renew that tax. And I think it's something we should consider changing in this RFP. This is our RFP. We can dictate how we want the service done in any way, shape, or form. And now's the time to do that, to ensure that we have the service we want for the next 5, 10, 15 years, whatever it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan. Mr. Landry.
Is there going to be an eclipse tonight?
I have no idea.
It might be that big moon. I actually agree with Mr. Hassan. That's unbelievable. At first I didn't think I did, but he kept talking, I do. And I didn't understand that, but no, there's no way they should be charged more. By having 3 cans, it doesn't create any more garbage. Still got the same amount of garbage being created out there, every week, every month. I'm sure it doesn't vary that much. From what I understand, regardless of the brand of the can, it can still be picked up by different haulers. Whoever would get it, they can pick up the other guy's can. It's still going to work on the truck. So I would agree with you. They should not be charged extra. Now, you know, I hope some of these folks don't have a business and they got 3 cans because they're hauling the business trash to keep from buying a dumpster. I would hope that's not happening. But in my opinion, they should get 1 free can. And if I was bidding on that, and I knew everybody's going to get a free can, I can put a number on that. If I'm having to give them 2 free cans, how many are going to ask for that second can and how many aren't going to ask? I mean, that's kind of an unknown. So I'm going to guess high. I mean, and that's going to cost. So there's going to be a cost involved in that because they're having to give away that second can. I mean, that is what was said is, or can they not get 2 cans free if they ask for it?
Well, you pay for the, under this recommendation, you would pay for the second can itself, but not the service for it.
Okay. Well, then I do agree with that. I mean, you should get the first can free. If you want the second can, you purchase the can.
Yes. Is that the way it is today, Alan?
That's
already?
exactly right. The question, Mr. Landry, would come in at the 3rd can, and it's sort of, I guess there's a consensus at the 3rd can, you would have to purchase that can, just like the second one.
Right.
But the service for the 3rd can, 4th, 5th, on down the line, is what's in question. I think if Mr. Ellis, wait, Mr. Hassel. Right, so that's what's in question mostly right now, is deciding whether that service becomes an added charge or if it's in, we want our contractor to include it in the base rate as a bid it, or propose it, I guess is a better term.
I mean, I would say everybody gets the free can, the first one. I think everybody agrees with that. And then any number thereafter they would need to pay for. But, you know, if the fella, to me, if he has a can that he went and bought at Lowe's and he's got it out there on the road and the truck's capable of picking it up, just pick up the trash. Because, yeah, they paid for it. Who wants to get a call about that? Oh, well, I had a different color can out there. It's full of trash and they wouldn't pick it up. That's ridiculous. They need to get a free can. We need to pick it up and not charge them. I'll never vote for that if we're going to charge them extra. And one other question I had is the way it's worded here, it's for a 5-year term with a maximum 5-year renewal. Does that mean at the end of 10 years it will be rebid again?
Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Mr. President, this is a non-exclusive franchise. These people would be working exclusively. That'll be who you pay exclusively. But they can come in, anybody can come in and compete with it. But the law says that you cannot have any contract for waste pickup that goes longer than 10 years. So at the end of 10 years, you can either rebid it or you could bargain with the current waste provider to have another 5-year contract with a 5-year.
So now how do we get around that? Because is not, I don't want that to ever happen again. It shouldn't go past 10 years.
I'm just telling you what you can do, Mr. Landry. I don't know what you are going to do. I'm just saying you can't have one past 10 years. At the end of 10 years, you can negotiate, or you can send it out for bid again.
And the law allows for that.
Yes.
So that would have to be a policy change within the police jury for that not to happen again.
Yes, our reasoning on the recommendation is because it gives you the flexibility to do either. If you did an exclusive franchise, you would be forced to bid it out regardless of how you felt at the end of that period. So you still can do both. So you can have your cake and eat it too, I guess is the way it is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Landry. Mr. Andrew Pont.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the jury, I totally concur with Mr. Hassan and Mr. Landry. For those of you who were not here when this originally started 18, 19 years ago, whenever it was, the 1.5 cent sales tax was for free garbage pickup, number one, and secondly, for hard surfacing all the roads in the parish. First thing we did after the tax passed was come sit down here and say this road doesn't qualify and that road doesn't qualify. If we're going to stipulate the 3rd can, that should have been said early on, up front, and I don't think now that we should go back and say after the tax is passed, you can have 2 cans, but the 3rd one you got to pay for. I am adamantly opposed to that. I think it's a diminution of service that we have provided in the past. And I can't see us providing any less service than we have provided for the last 18, 19 years. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Mr. Fornum.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree with you also, Francis Ellis. I think we need to, if there's garbage on the side of the road, we need to pick it up. The cost of the can, number one, is going to deter people from getting more cans than they really need. Secondly, if there's trash in the cans, that means it's probably not laying on the ground, and it's going to be easier for the service provider to pick those things up, get them in the truck if it's in a can instead of bundled up on the side of the road. So I totally agree with the fact that however many cans are on the side of the road, the service provider needs to pick it up. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Farnum. Mr. Hassan.
Yes, there was one thing I left out, and thank you, Mr. President. Brian, one thing you mentioned at the meeting we had the other day was that we're talking about 10%, and you were saying, well, the other 90% are going to pay for that 10%. I disagree with that because this is paid for with a sales tax. The more garbage a household creates means they've spent more sales dollars in the, in the area. So they are truly paying for that garbage pickup because it's paid for by a sales tax. So I don't think the rationale is that we're putting the burden on others. I think that they're carrying the burden, so they should have that service continued. Mr. Landry brought up something that I had brought up the other day that I'm concerned about is we're estimating about 50% of the parish, so 12,500 homes, have purchased a second can from the present company. I think and I don't know what the answer is, to be honest with you, but we need to consider those people paid for that. They're gonna expect that they can keep it because they own that can. If we go to a different provider, they should be able to use that can still.
They should.
Yes, we, at the last meeting, that came up, and we were taking all of the committee's input and try to address those issues more specifically, and that was one we need to have in place so that everybody knows what to expect. So that will be a part of what we come back to you with.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan. Mr. Scott.
Yeah, I 100% agree about keeping the service at the level we have. I think a lot of the 2 cans has to deal with an automated type system, grabbing that can, putting it in there. I'm still a big proponent of seeing a manned truck that picks up trash, that makes sure it stays off the ground, that's picked up at whatever can the people put down there. Now, I'm also a proponent of compromise. And somewhere along the way, figuring out how to get our second can or not a second can, if we do pay or don't pay, I think somewhere along the way, some of us will have to buy that second can again. I think that's somewhere we have to work that part out. So I don't think we can just say, I got 2 cans, give me my second can. Somewhere we got to be businesslike, as well as compromising on how we get this trash off the roads, because that's our main concern, is making sure what people have voted in is taken care of in the right manner. So just thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Mr. McMillan.
Thank you. I'm too in consensus that I feel like we shouldn't be charging for the 3rd can if they have 3 cans out there. From an action item standpoint, I think the committee is probably hearing this jury loud and clear. And if we need to rewrite the RFP that says that, then maybe we need a vote of this jury to tell the committee that we're moving in that direction, that we don't want to see that. And we could put that to a vote if we need to. I would ask, or is the committee hearing us loud and clear that we don't want to really see a 3rd can pickup being charged for? I have no problem in 1 free can, pay for the 2nd can, pay for the 3rd can, put your Lowe's can out there. That's okay. Get the trash picked up, but let's don't start charging them because they have additional trash at the curb in this parish, because we're definitely trying to rid this parish of that trash. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Mr. Spell.
I just want to make sure I was clear, because, I mean, if we're just talking about picking up the trash and not charging extra for that, I'm also okay with that, but are we going to be providing unlimited number of cans, I guess is my question. No. Because that would be something that I would be concerned about. But if somebody's got trash out by the road, I would want it picked up. But I just want to make sure we're not saying you can have as many cans as you want, you don't have to pay for them.
We're not saying that.
So,
Strictly the service.
okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Spell.
President.
Ms. Trimmy?
No, I just wanted to confirm with Mr. McMillan that we have I think an excellent committee that has been working on this, and everything that you said has been brought up by Mr. Scott, by Ms. Griffin, by Mr. Anderpont, by Mr. Hassan, and I think that our staff has heard the committee, even though loud and clear that they're going to be presenting to us, and that they're going to take a lot of the recommendations from that committee and put in that RFP. And I really feel good about the committee. Like I said, I didn't get to ask that many questions, but that the questions that were asked were excellent, and the points that were made were excellent. And so I think in the end, when they make this presentation, that I feel, at least I hope I do, that our staff has taken all this into consideration and will be happy campers when they make their presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trimmy. Ms. Griffin?
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have one concern. We've been talking about the cans so much, but I would like to see the first can get free. If you want a second can, you need to purchase that can. Also, if you want a third can, you need to purchase that can. Because, I mean, I think it would be too burdensome to ask a company to provide that. Now, in reference to having your garbage can already before we go into contract, I think it would be good if they could keep it. You don't have to purchase another one if you already have one. But I do have a question. That's because I'm just not familiar with a couple of terms that, Mr. President, may I ask Mr. Scott,
Yes,
what
ma'am. Go
is
ahead.
a man truck? You know, I would like to know for you to explain to me the difference. You said you want to see a man.
An automated truck
Okay.
just has the arm that.
I know
grabs.
the
A man
difference
truck has-
between an automated truck. I need for you to explain to me what is a man truck.
He actually rides on the back, or he actually is making sure the trash goes into the back of the truck and just not a driver with an automated system.
Oh, okay. So you want the automated truck and you want a man on the back of the truck to make sure no trash is.
I just want a man on the back of the truck. I don't care what.
Period.
Kind of truck it
Okay.
is.
Well, I'm wondering, and you know, because it's fascinating to me because I look at them pick up my garbage every Monday, and sometimes they do a good job. Nothing is left behind. And sometimes trash is dumped on the street, and then they have to come back to clean it. So we don't want the trash on the street, and that is why you're asking.
Yes, ma'am.
I like that. That's good. Okay. Would that be an additional cost to the,
No, ma'am.
okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. Go ahead, Mr. Landry.
I mean, I hate to tell you, but if I can run a truck with one guy, that's going to be a certain cost. And if I have a truck I'm running with two men, it's going to cost me twice as much. So, yes, it is going to cost more. Now, you can word it in a way, I don't care if they can pick up the whole parish with one truck. We're getting into the garbage business, and we don't need to tell them how to do it. You just need to set the rules up, and one of those rules should say, you don't leave trash on the street. Now, if they need 10 people on the truck to do that, that's all their business. If they can do it with one guy and it's automated and it's clean, then so be it. I would just put the guidelines. You get into, hey, you got to have 2 men on the truck or 6 men on the truck. We don't need to tell them how to do their business.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Landry. Mr. Hassan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Landry, I think what the concern is, the present company went to that one man on the truck dumping automated deal. They still have to pick up limbs. They still have to pick up additional stuff, which was causing 2 trucks to come down the same streets. They went away from that back to a more efficient service of getting it all at once, just leaving it on the ground less time. I think that's what our concern was in the committee meeting, that it's much more efficient. We get it all at once rather than going back after it a second time. But that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan. Mr. Scott?
I don't know if Ms. Griffin was done before that.
Oh, yes, I understand now. And that's one thing I don't see, with of course I live in the city, but As Mr. President, did you give him permission?
Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead.
As Mr. Landry said, I wouldn't feel comfortable telling them how to make sure there's no trash or garbage in the street. I just wanted to know so that, just add a little more to keep me more abreast of that. It's just, I suppose the choice of words could make someone get interested as to what you're saying, and I see it all the time. I just want the roads cleaned, however they do it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. Mr. Spell?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to add, although I agree with what Mr. Scott is wanting to accomplish, I just wanted to say that I do think I concur with Mr. Landry that a performance-based spec would be business-friendly. So I would just like to add that for the record.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Mr. Scott?
Yeah, one of the things with if the tax fails, you're going to end up having to have several trucks up and down the road. When you have one truck with 2 people in it, one driving, one helping man the actual putting of the garbage in it, you're now sticking to one truck in the neighborhood. If you have a second truck that comes in after the automated truck, now we have 2 heavy pieces of equipment on the road, which is what we were trying to prevent when we went out with the sales tax, saying we don't want to have 2 different trash companies running up and down the same road. It's more wear and tear on the roads. So that's just a thought process of one truck, 2 people, do it all at once. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Without any other discussion, I have a motion and a second to receive report. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. I have one speaker, Mark Parham. Parham? I really need my glasses.
Parham, Mr. Brom.
State your name and address for the record.
Mark Parham.
Sounds like Braun.
3065 Old Town Road. From the perspective of a person that is benefiting from this, we have several cans at our home. No trash is left on the road. 2 men on the truck. You don't have to worry about anything being picked up. Another perspective, Mr. Hassan mentioned it. If there's 3 cans at a home, somebody's buying more. Somebody's paying more taxes. This service is getting paid for. Yes, if they're buying extra cans, pay for the cans. You can't expect the company to absorb that cost. Nobody does. We don't expect that. But to maintain the same level of service that was being performed before this tax was passed, that's what the citizens expect. Y'all all voted for a covenant, except for Mr. Spell. Thank you. Don't break that covenant with the people. Maintain the same level of service. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Is there any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item 11 will carry. Oh, that was 11. Item 12.
Move to approve.
Consideration of adopting a resolution approving the call of an election to be held on October 22nd, 2011 by the Board of Commissioners of the Community Center and Playground District Number 4 of Ward 1. I have a motion by Mr. Spell, second by Mr. Guidry. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 13.
Move on 13.
Consideration of adopting a resolution approving the call of an election to be held on October 22nd, 2011 by the Board of Commissioners of Gravity Drainage District Number 7 of Ward 8. I have a motion by Ms. Griffin and a second by Mr. Andrepont. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 14, consideration of adopting a resolution approving the call of an election to be held on October 22nd, 2011 by the Board of Commissioners of Sulphur Parks and Recreation, formerly known as Community Center and Playground District Number 2. I have a motion by Mr. Andrepont and a second by Mr. Hassan. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 15, consideration of adopting a resolution indicating objection.
15.
No objection to the following proposed projects in Calcasieu Parish. 15.1 is proposal of stream wetland service. The planning staff recommends that the police jury defer action for 30 days. 15.2, proposal of BP Disposal LLC. The planning staff recommends that the police jury indicate no objection to this project. I have a motion by Mr. Andrepont and a second by Ms. Griffin. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 16, take appropriate action on RZ03010-06, which is a request by Richard Lee to rescind ordinance number 5076
16.
and revert to
Second.
the property to R1 to allow single-family residential development on LeBlue Road in Ward 3. I have a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Ms. Griffin. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Let me read the little planning note, agenda note. The Planning and Zoning Board met on Tuesday, March 22nd, 2011, and voted unanimously that the request be granted. Item 17.
Move on 17.
Second.
Take appropriate action on RA 03003-11, which is a request by Charles Basilio et al. To abandon the south end of Hill Road. I have a motion by Dr. Mackey and a second by Mr. Stelly. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. The Planning and Zoning Board met on Tuesday, March 22nd, 2011, and voted unanimously that the request be granted. Item 18, consideration of adopting an ordinance rescinding ordinance number 5065,
Move.
Second.
which ordered the demolition of one house located at 2737 Bayou Den Road. Have a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Ms. Griffin. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 19, consideration of adopting a resolution authorizing the Division of Planning and Development to study the feasibility of reclassifying certain tracts of land in Ward 3 near the intersection of West Lincoln Road and Elliott Road as commercial or industrial. I have a motion by Mr. Sias and a second by Mr. Scott. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Go to item 20, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a contract between Fire and Protection District
Move on,
Number
20.
2 of Ward 3 and James H. Fontenot Construction, Inc. for renovations of the Gulf Highway Fire Station. I have a motion by Ms. Griffin and a second by Mr. Anderpont. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 21, consideration of approving the
Move on
following
21
requests
on bullets.
from the Office of Federal Program Development. 21.1, consideration of adopting a resolution authorizing the submittal of a grant application in the amount of $250,000 in response to the second release of the Louisiana Housing Finance Agency's notice to fund availability. 21.2, consideration of adopting a resolution authorizing the submittal of a grant application in the amount of $100,000 to the Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas. And that's it. I have a motion with all bullets by Mr. Collins and a second by Mr. Sias. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 22, consideration of approving the following request from the Office of Community Services.
Second.
Bullet 22.1, consideration of adopting a resolution approving an agreement between the Police Jury Office of Community Service and the Louisiana Community Action Partnerships, Inc. for the purpose of providing low-income energy housing benefits. Bullet 22.2, consideration of adopting a resolution approving an extension of the joint service agreements between the Police Jury and the Calcasieu Parish Sheriff's Office and the Calcasieu Parish District Attorney's Office, Ward 3, Marshal's Office, and City Lake Charles for continuation of the Triad program. 22.3, consideration of adopting a resolution approving the submittal of a sub-grant application in the amount of up to $450,906 to the Louisiana Workforce Commission Community Services Block Grant. Have a motion by Ms. Trimmy and a second by Ms. Griffin on all bullets. Ms. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'm pleased to announce that the Office of Community Services met last week. We re-elected Ms. Trimmy as the president of the board, and I would like to personally thank Mr. Vinson for the fine job. He's in the mode now of making sure that he prepares with the finances that they're working with to make sure that they're able to continue to provide the services even though that they're experiencing cuts. And he's been able to do that, to provide the same services to our people of the parish. And and it's going good. Even though he's working with less, he's been able to provide more. I would like to thank Mr. Vincent and his staff for that. In reference to LAHEAP, that is a very needed service for our senior citizens and those individuals that we have in the parish that's functioning under a set low income, or maybe our retired senior citizens. And I'm so pleased that we're able to assist with that. I just want to share that and to let you know about Ms. Trimmy.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Ms. Trimmy.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Griffin.
Okay, we'll go to item 23. Take appropriate
Move on
action
23 all bullets.
on bids received by the parish person agent on March 2nd, 2011 for the following items. 23.1, ready-mix concrete, crushed stone, hot mix, sewer pumps, and related parts. 23.2, mosquito control chemicals. Have a motion by Mr. Farnham and a second by Mr. Collins. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 24, consideration of approving, authorizing the parish person agent to advertise for bids or purchase the following utilizing state contract purchasing procedures. 3 1/2-ton trucks, 2 1-ton trucks, 1 tandem truck, 1 truck with roadside sprayer, and that's 24.1. 24.2 would be tractors and mowers. 24.3 would be 1 mid-size sedan. 24.4 would be purchase and installation of audio and video equipment. I have a motion by Ms. Griffin and a second by Mr. Collins. And Ms. Griffin,
Thank you,
discussion.
sir. Are these vehicles all new and unused? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. Is there any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. We'll go to item 25, consideration of authorizing the parish administrator to advertise for bids for the renovation to the 901 Lakeshore Drive building. Have a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Mr. Collins. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 26, consideration of issuing the following proclamations. 26.1, proclamation proclaiming the month of April 2011 as Fair Housing Month in Calcasieu Parish.
Second.
26.2, proclamation proclaiming the week of April 10th through the 16th, 2011 as National Telecommunicator Week in Calcasieu Parish. I have a motion by Mr. Sias and a second by Mr. Farnham. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. Mr. Scott would like a personal point of privilege. Go ahead, Mr. Scott.
Yeah, Mr. President, I'd like to be able to add on for us to put out a letter of condolences to Mr. Tim Connor's family for the death of his dad, Mr. Elmer Connor. We could do that as a jury.
Thank you. I need a motion to do that.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Griffin, a second by Mr. Landry. Any objection? Hearing none, motion carries. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, we are adjourned.